All right, thanks, Manuela. I appreciate the quick introduction, and I'm really excited to present today to share some of the things that that I personally have learned and that we at Lingotek have learned over the course of honestly a few years worth of research and learning as we've gone through kind of getting ourselves up to speed on what the industry expects and what the industry needs and what our customers want and need. And this is some great information that hopefully you'll find useful to take back to your own personal purview. So the topic of the day is quality evaluation and scoring and some of the new frontiers that we are kind of entering into. And to set the stage for my presentation, I wanted to go through the quick agenda here. And the introduction part, Manuela handled that pretty well, so I'll just burn through that. But I'm going to spend some time digging into the quality management problem. And out of that problem that we felt like needed to be addressed, we came up with some missions and objectives that we were after, and I'm going to talk through those in depth. And then go through and talk about centralizing quality management and some tips and some ways to go about doing that. And then the flexible and dynamic scoring component, and finish it up with some of the reporting and results. So quick introduction, Manuela covered it. So really, if you want to link up with me on LinkedIn, you're welcome to do so. I'd love to to answer any questions you have outside if you do have any. And a quick run through of what who Lingotek is and what we do. We, as you can see here by some of the stats on the screen, we're a cloud-based TMS. We have dozens of content connectors into content management systems and other proprietary systems that our clients or customers may use. We have a network of over 5,000 translators throughout the world and a very robust API to integrate with. So that's who we are at Lingotek. And just jumping into the quality management problem. So the quality management problem is something that we've all on the call probably experienced at in one degree or another, whether if you're a client or a translation buyer who is out there trying to find the best quality translation at the lowest price, if you're a vendor or an LSP providing translations, it's always the balance of trying to decide what's the best quality level for this project or this customer that I need, that still meets my margins that I need to hit from a profitability standpoint. So the problem is that even though we may agree on a quality level, so let's take machine translation. Often is the case when you're first starting out into the localization world and starting out to translate your website or your content into another language, you want to go cheap because you don't know how much you're going to be spending overall. You don't know what your budget's going to look like. And so let's maybe start with machine translation. And that's a low price. But then as soon as that comes back to bite us, where we have some sort of a problem with or a bad customer experience, then we start to have to figure out what to do moving forward. And that process is a very time-consuming and challenging process, because the fact that a customer reported a translation problem requires you to start to take some time to dig in to figure out where the problem was, what we can do to mitigate it moving forward, and so on. So it's a balancing act, because you're balancing the cost and quality paradigm with the efficiency or ability to manage quality as you're feeding more and more content through the translation pipeline. So it's really, some of the question that we asked ourselves, and the question that probably many of you on the call ask is how do we make this managing quality more lean? How do we, from a translation buyer's perspective, how do I make it so that I have data readily available to me, so that I can, quickly answer those tough questions of how did this translation make it into the final product, or which vendors are performing well and which ones aren't. If I'm a vendor or an LSP, how do I set things up so that it's a lean process, so I don't have to throw just more bodies at it to make it a manageable thing. So that's the problem, and what it boils down to is from it really boils down to a customer experience. And from a customer experience standpoint, as quality goes up and as you introduce methods and procedures to raise the quality bar, you can see that it's really, as you introduce more phases or steps into your workflow, it can become a very time-consuming process and slow down translation. But from the delivery of the customer experience, I'll step back to this previous slide here. As customer experience improves as quality levels go up, and on the inverse, risk goes down as you improve or take those steps to improve quality. So it's really trying to find the happy medium in there, and there are a lot of tools out there that try to help, and there's some really, really great tools out there that try to help provide linguists and translators with a set of functionality to help them identify problems quicker in the process. So as you can see here, here's some screenshots of tools that exist, like Xbench and Okapi Checkmate and other things for kind of this managing the quality management process better and helping to streamline it. But the reality is that even the most sophisticated localization groups, they resort to using lots of different tools and third-party applications to try and manage this. And those applications are often a disparate set of applications. You might be using Microsoft Excel to handle all of your scoring and your definition of error types and categories. Your linguist might be using something like Xbench or Okapi Checkmate, or a quality check tool inside of their CAT tool. And there's really no centralization of that, no coordination or collaboration between the different apps. And it can become a challenge to figure out how to manage the quality with all the different apps that are out there. And so what I'm going to get into next is what we call the term paper analogy. It's how we think of managing this quality, or I guess solving this quality management problem. And the simplest way for us to understand it is to think about a term paper when you're in college or you're at a university. So as a student, as a teacher, the teacher will typically define what it means to get a good grade on a term paper. So the teacher will say, here's how you provide a good term paper. You write a good thesis, you use proper writing mechanics, the organization of the document makes sense, and it has thorough research and thought out arguments inside the term paper. As a student, you take that learning and you have some tools at your disposal, like a spelling and grammar check inside of your word processor. Maybe that word processor has some formatting checks or helps that help you format the document better. And if you take that analogy and you overlay it into the translation industry, you could say that you have a quality manager that's not listed on the diagram. You have a quality manager that is responsible for defining what we call the quality program looks like. So the quality program is like those steps that the teacher laid out that says, you know, structure and thesis and research. The quality manager defines what those things are, and then the reviewers are, or then the translators are responsible for providing the highest quality translation using tools like an in-context editor, spelling and grammar checks, or in the case of many CAT tools and the Xbenches and Checkmates of the world, other rules that they look for, like locale violations, such as like a date not being properly localized and so forth. Then the reviewer goes through so those tools are objective tools. Those are what we at Lingotek refer to as linguistic quality assurance tools. And then for reviewers, linguistic quality evaluation is a subjective process. They use subjective tools to provide feedback, such as, you know, this is inconsistent with the term base, it's undertranslated, and all of the feedback that the reviewer provides impacts the overall score, just like the teacher grading your paper. The feedback provided by reviewers using that standard set of definitions in the quality program, that impacts the score of the translation. So you literally end up with a 97% and passing, or 98% passing, 94% failing, whatever your pass-fail threshold is. So that's the analogy that we to think about and use as we move through the rest of this presentation, and the way that we at Lingotek think of it. So moving into our mission and objectives. So our mission, as we looked at what was out in the industry, what we, you know, I mentioned how we have, we're an LSP as well. We have over 5,000 translators throughout the world. We deal with the same kind of challenges of how do we effectively manage quality, whether that's managing our own linguists, or when our customers or clients are you know, we're working with them to improve or report on quality. Excuse me. These are the mission. This is the mission and objectives that we set out to accomplish. So we felt like it was important to build a system to effectively and efficiently manage quality at scale. That's a very broad statement, and by system I don't mean necessarily software. I don't necessarily mean, you know, an application that Lingotek built. We do have that, but in the sense that, or with regards to the topic today, I'm really just talking about you need to set up a system that includes people, that includes some predefined processes and ways of reporting, so that the system itself can manage and eliminate some of the communication gaps and things that happen naturally throughout real world translation. And out of that mission, to meet that mission, we defined 4 objectives. The first was to centralize quality management as best you can, and to support flexible and dynamic quality scoring, which I'll dig into each of these a little bit more, to really streamline the quality evaluation process, LQE, making it a streamlined and seamless part of the workflow, and then providing visibility into, you know, some of the reporting and trends that are around it. Those were the key objectives to meet our mission of helping our own LSP and our customers, and sharing this information with you, helping manage quality at scale. So the first objective, centralizing quality management. As we've worked through this problem and you know, really arrived at a solution for us, and you know, again, sharing this information externally, we kind of coined the phrase a quality program. And the quality program is, you know, I talked about the system. the quality program is the system. And the quality program, when you're defining it, it really consists of the makeup of how everyone will communicate about quality at your organization. So that, you know, at the highest level, it's, I want everyone to refer to terminology issues this way. I want everyone to refer to, you know, bad localized dates this way, or money formats, you know, that I want it referred to this way, so that when a linguist or a translator says, here's my translation, and a reviewer reviews that they are referring to the same exact thing always the same way, so that it makes the communication much more simple. So the quality program is where you define all of that, and that's based on, you can use that to base it off of industry standards that are out there, such as like DQF, LISA, some of the ISO standards. And what those really boil down to is are how to categorize errors and severities that are given during translation. And so you can choose to, you can choose to just base it strictly off of an industry standard, or what our recommendation is, and that we implemented here at Lingotek, was a flexible and customizable quality program, so that we could take bits and pieces from the various standards that are out there to use on our projects, or for our customers to use on theirs. And that's an important piece, because while industry standards are amazing and great for helping everyone to kind of agree to a standard, they also can be sometimes overly complex to actually use and implement. So, as you're actually in the process, it's important to be able to look at it and say, you know what, we never see error type X. That's just not, it's never found, so let's just remove it completely from our list of error types that are available. You need that flexibility. And then the last part is setting up scorecards, and I won't talk too much about those in this slide, but setting up scorecards that are dynamic is important. One of the other recommendations and important parts of this centralizing of quality management is thinking about how to publish and distribute the quality program. So as we've set up our quality program and said, these are our error types and our categories. So we have an accuracy category, and the error types under accuracy are mistranslation and undertranslation and so forth. That's part of the quality program. The other part of it is, how do you actually distribute this and publish it? So for us, we felt like it was important to try and do this in a centralized application. And we built some internal tools to do this for us and our customers, but even without that, you can still accomplish a centralized quality program by doing it in something like a wiki. At Lingotek, we use the Atlassian suite, so Confluence is one of their wiki applications. So you could, create your quality program inside of Confluence and share that externally. So the point there is that you want the ability to quickly and really instantaneously publish and unpublish changes to your quality program without having to email and distribute it via files. So if you think about what that means, I have gone through the effort of defining all of my error types and categories, created scoring on those. It's 3 points for this error type of this severity, and I've done that in Microsoft Excel, and we send that off to our vendors or to our clients, who's ever doing it. You send that off, and 2 months later, you want to make some changes to it. Maybe we're too harsh on a certain error type, or whatever. It's a distribution nightmare to then say, okay, here's a new file that's been passed out to my vendors, that's been passed down to their project managers, that's been passed out to their linguists, and you have to distribute that all the way out. It can be a nightmare to figure out how to get rid of old versions and make sure that linguists are on the right version. So centralizing it into a single application, such as, if your translation technology has that ability, that's great. If it doesn't, then use something that you can share as a link that everyone goes to the same location without having to manage the distribution of it. I talked about the versioning a little bit more. So, basically you want it for historical reference. So things like, let's say we make some adjustments to our program that we've been using for the past 6 months. All of the previous scores and feedback that was given on the translations should be held to the standard of what it was 6 months ago, not today's standard, and not reassessed on today's standard, if that makes sense. So you want to be able to support versioning, and again, a lot of those tools that are out there. If your technology solution again handles this, that's great. If not, the wikis and confluences and many other types of tools like that, they support typically some sort of a version. If not, just create a copy of it inside of that app and share that. So flexible and dynamic scoring, part of that, this is the second objective, right? So we wanted to, the first was the centralization of the quality program, and the second is this flexible and dynamic scoring that includes the algorithm itself. And this is, sorry if this is a little, this is a little deep and not many examples here, but happy to answer any questions on this. But basically the scorecards that you create, you want those to be dynamic based on a variety of things, right? So if I have, if I use a content type or domain or specific connectors to manage the content in and out of my translation technology, I want to be able to flag those, because not all content needs to be scored the same way. If it's, say, like a forum or a blog post, it doesn't need to be held to as strict of quality standards as something like a brochure or a legal document or those types of things. So having your scorecards, excuse me, having your scorecards set up so that it can say, content type equals legal, or domain equals legal, domain equals healthcare, domain equals whatever, and then you set up the scoring according to those. You set up scorecards according to those values. Then your program can automatically and seamlessly just do the scoring and calculation for you. So having an algorithm set up to support that variability in content types or how you want to score is important. And then as part of it, your algorithm needs to support a standardized word count. So what I mean by a standardized word count is documents have, they're obviously varying word counts, and you want to make sure that when you're talking about quality, you're comparing apples to apples, because if I have a 500-word document and a 5,000 word document, both of those have the same number of error points on them. The 5,000 word document is, should be considered a higher quality translation because it was spread across more words. The error points were spread across more words. So a standardized word count allows you to control that variability. So again, with my 500 word document analogy, the way that the algorithm should work is to say, what's my standardized word count? And it's 1,000. I'm going to divide that by the document word count, which is 500. So I'm left with 2. So however many error points I arrive at, let's say 10, I'm going to multiply that by that 2 number. So it's really, for this 500 word document, it's 20 error points. So the standardized standardized word count allows you to handle the varying sizes of documents and create a baseline. And then the last part of it is you want to be able to support it's important to support an approach of whether you want to use weighted error points or total error points. So again, back to the quality program and flexibility, setting it up to where, we say all level 1 errors are 5 error points. Level 2 errors are 3 error points. Level 3 errors are 1 error point, and level 4 are 0 error points, right? You can do that for all of your scorecards, and then use weighting to say, okay, for this error type, we want to weight that by half or weight it by a third. You could do it that way, or just use a total error point method. But having that flexibility we found was really important in our own implementation of it, as well as a recommendation for others. And again, the algorithm itself can be a bit complex, so I'm happy to answer any questions. And then the last part of, we've set up our quality program, and under the and we've centralized it, and under the objective of dynamic and flexible scoring is you want, when reviewers are reviewing the content, you need the feedback to, you need the scoring to provide real-time updates and feedback to the reviewer, so that as they enter feedback, they see the impact of that feedback on the overall quality score, because they may not be as familiar with some of the weightings and error points that happen, but when they see that by creating that error type, in that single error, I knocked 5 points off of this document, they might reassess what it looks like, or they might reassess the severity of that and not be so critical, because maybe it isn't as critical, right? So having that feedback directly provided, if you're using Excel, if you're using your translation technology, which we built at Lingotek to support our use cases, it was a really important thing to have that right there when they create the feedback, so that the score is continually represented. And that helps the reviewers to provide the right feedback. And it needs to be a quick and easy process, so that it doesn't, this goes into the whole streamlining concept, but it needs to be quick and easy to enter the feedback for linguists. So, just a quick way to provide feedback that allows them to put in the error type, severity, and comments. And by doing it this way, it creates a learning opportunity for the reviewers to learn the quality program that you set up, and translators to review the feedback that was given. So I kind of went through the instantaneous scoring, the immediate visibility part. It creates clear communication by having the standard. Again, this is all, let's make this better. Let's make it streamlined for everyone and reduce some of the objectivity or subjectivity and the chatter, if you will, that happens between, say, like translators and reviewers, or clients, translation buyers and translation providers. When a quality issue arises, it helps with clear communication when you define your quality program and move everything as close as you can to being objective, where the results are very objective, and then it becomes educational for both parties, where having the instantaneous scoring, it makes it available. Trying to move through this a little bit faster here. So then the next objective was to surface quality reporting and trends. So I've covered already the centralization of the quality program and the flexible and dynamic scoring objective and how we approached it. And next is the quality reporting and trends. So after the quality program has been set up, and as translation is happening and it's going through the workflow, the reviewers are providing feedback, or they're evaluating the quality of the translation. That you want to be able to report on that and have the data exposed so that you can analyze it in different ways. You can roll it up by documents, right? So you could say, across all of the target locales or target languages that this document is being translated into, show me the quality score for each of those targets. and average that out to an overall document score. So that, you know, if you're reporting, if you're a centralized loc group inside of an enterprise, you can report externally to your clients at a document level how the overall quality score was, and so forth into the target languages. Or you want to be able to view results by, you know, by a specific locale. And if you're a vendor and reporting on quality, you want to be able to say, okay, how is French looking over the last month, or Chinese over the last month, and so on. And then to be able to drill in. So as a few examples, here's some of the reports that we created that I think you could find value in. And this is representing a quality score over time. So for the month of January, here was the average of all the translations that were completed in the month of January. Here was the average score for each target language. And also being able to look at it from the standpoint of the issues by type or category, and seeing the distribution there, which creates educational opportunities, right? So as you're looking at the data, you can say, okay, I'm looking at this pie chart, and I have some style issues and I have some terminology issues that are the bulk of it, and maybe language too. But terminology and style, I know how to tackle those, and so, you know, I'm going to make some adjustments to my style guide, or if I'm a translation provider, I'm going to ask my client what we can do to establish a more clear style guide of how we translate. I'm also going to go to my linguists and talk to them about terminology usage and double check maybe some workflow settings or something to make sure that the proper term bases are used. So having that data, you know, those are some of the examples of charts that we set up and used. And for all of this, like centralization and the quality feedback to really be powerful, it needs to be in a feedback loop back to the linguists who are actually providing the translation. So, you know, if you think about continuous improvement as a goal, the only way for translators or reviewers to improve is for them to actually get the feedback and to make that loop a really seamless process. And so as we built this out for us internally, and as we looked in the industry, we felt like it's really important. So again, if you're using your technology solutions to do this, that's great. If not, you need to be thinking about ways to get the feedback into your translator's hands as soon as possible. Because in the scenario, you know, there's really, well, let's take the worst case scenario. My documents are always, you know, 100, 200 word documents, very small translation jobs, but I do a ton of them. And so as those documents are fed into the system and translation is happening, I could have a translator who makes the same mistake 100 times over 2 weeks. And if I'm not providing him feedback on his translations until like a monthly review or a quarterly business review, I'm really, you know, I have a real slowness there that could have mitigated a lot of problems. So things to consider of how you can actually deliver this feedback loop. You know, you'll have to look at what technologies you're using to see what their capabilities are. But, you know, we felt like exposing that ability for linguists to at any time pull feedback, you know, so, you know, maybe their task in the morning when they first get to work to figure out what they need to work on is to first download their feedback and review their feedback, so that when they start their day, they're starting it off with the feedback that was provided on previous translations in mind, so they don't make those same mistakes. Or if positive feedback has been given, it says, you know, hey, great job on this one. You did, you know, I loved the style of translation on this. You know, they can incorporate some of that positive reinforcement as well. But the feedback needs to be available for, you know, basically every person involved, from the linguists down to you know, all the way through to the clients themselves. So some of the results that we saw from this, So as we implemented a lot of this stuff internally at our own LSP, as we've worked, as I mentioned at the start, this has really been a culmination of 2 to 3 years worth of research with our clients, looking ourselves in the mirror with our own language services group here, and working with some of the industry think tanks and standards out there, working closely with the folks at Taos and others. This is, as we implemented this here, having the clearly defined quality program, it really had a profound impact on customer experience and the way that everyone communicates about quality here. And so, when I can't stress enough the importance of establishing this. It may seem trivial that, we have, a wiki page that defines this, or it's defining our quality or in our translation technology, or we're using an Excel file, whatever it is. It may sound trivial, but it's necessary, and it has made a huge impact on how we talk about things and resolve quality issues and move forward from there. So we noticed that it's really, as the screen shows here, it really has eliminated some of the ambiguity we experienced around the error types and categories and severities. It helped us educate our clients about, if they come to us and say, oh, the translation was just terrible in this document. Our first response is, okay, did you provide feedback so that our linguists could see it? And, oh, no, we didn't. And let me do that. So they go in and provide the feedback, and then it helps them to think through the feedback that they provide, and it really has made a big improvement to our communication with our clients and our vendors. The second is having a single application for managing quality. It really has streamlined it. So I talked about the publishing and distribution side of things. Having that single application for managing quality, it really has streamlined the project setup process and linguist onboarding for us. Meaning because we no longer have to distribute like an Excel file or a Word doc that describes our quality program, or that sort of thing, centralizing it all into a single application. It's really made, we set up a project. Here's the quality program that's going to be used. Everyone knows where to look for it. There's no like I'm using previous versions, am I on the right version, and so on. So for us, it really has eliminated that problem of distribution and old versions where they created feedback of a type that maybe was deprecated, that kind of thing. The result of having streamlined management is the way that we implemented it. We basically empowered our reviewers to and made it such a streamlined process that rather than just fixing the translations, they take an extra 10 or 15 seconds to quickly input the feedback, and that minimal extra effort up front by our reviewers really has paid dividends down the road from their work efficiency standpoint, because they feel like they have not had to have as much chatter about arbitration and mitigation. So he said, she said, that kind of stuff. There's far less of that chatter that's then made them more efficient at getting more done throughout the day. So taking that extra 15 seconds or whatever it is up front to quickly fix the translation and provide the feedback has made it better for everyone. And that was kind of a tough pill to swallow initially for our linguists, but as they proceeded, they really kind of saw that it did make an impact. So it allowed us as a company to improve quality, but not decrease our margins as we as the translations, or as we implemented the process. So efficiency gains, we also saw efficiency gains by using the single app where again, everyone doesn't have to you don't have to open up you don't have to have Excel open on one screen and Word on another screen, and then your cat tool on the other screen to do all of this. It's all within the same. So the results of the dynamic scoring for us. So the way that we set it up, again, was within our technology solution, but you can do this within Excel. But you want to eliminate the manual calculation of scores. So whether that's formulas in an Excel file or the algorithm inside your technology, that's better. But for us, doing that, it removed the need for manually calculating scores. It's just there. When feedback is provided, boom, the score is there, and the system just figures it out. So the system can, again, back to the whole system comment, the system can be Excel, the system can be your translation technology, whatever it is, but the system do the calculation instead of you loading it all up and then saying, okay, I need to add these 2 points and these 4 points, and just then you defeat the whole streamlining concept. So for us, that dynamic scoring, again, we saw less chatter about quality. So because the quality score was literally, here's this score on this document was 97% and it passed, there's less chatter. It's based on the standards that we've all agreed upon, everyone involved in our quality program. There's less chatter because it adhered to the process. So it was a 97% score and it passed, and I can move on. There's not like, hey, can you tell me the score on this document and maybe summarize what the problem was. The answer is, well, it was a 60% quality score and it failed, and here's the feedback on it. That's why. It's so lots of reduction in chatter there. Excuse me. There we go. And it, the dynamic scoring, it allows us to collect objective data for quality discussions. So as an example of one of those discussions, I showed the chart that showed the errors by type. That, that chart is objective data that lets us go have those educational discussions with our linguists or with our clients. And then the reporting, I kind of went through this already, but it allows us to monitor trends over time. So by our clients or by the linguists, I showed you some of the performance and scores. And again, those discussions and things that we have are based on data, not just conjecture. So here's kind of a summary. I won't go through each one of them. I think we've talked about them at length, but it's improved our LQE process, improved communication by implementing these things, by implementing the quality program. That's the critical part. Is here's how we refer to things. Here's how everything is scored. Let's implement this. And provide that feedback right away. We've experienced it's been a hugely impactful, I should say, on Lingotek as a business and also for our customers. And yeah, so what questions? That's all I had in terms of the content. I guess to circle back to our objectives and our mission. Our mission was to streamline the process, and we did that by centralizing quality management, by having a flexible and dynamic algorithm, by allowing feedback and having that feedback through dynamic scoring on the fly, and then also by having some reporting and mechanisms to analyze the data. Those were how we met our objective of really streamlining and making the process more efficient. So I have lots and lots and lots of additional information that I can share on this, so I'm happy to answer any questions. And if you do have any other questions, you want to reach out to me outside, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, like I showed earlier. So with that, Manuela, turn it back to you for questions.
Yes, thank you very much for this presentation, Brett. We do have a lot of questions, so let's see how many we can knock out in the remaining time. You talked about versioning and distributing quality programs. And somebody would like to know if this feature is available as part of Lingotek's product, or is this purely for internal use?
It is available as part of Lingotek's product.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you. How do you manage or centralize the feedback? Does each reviewer send the result to each translator, or what would you recommend when there's a lot of feedback to send?
Yeah, so the way that we've, I guess, implemented it and thought about it is to so I think that one the answer to that is it kind of depends on your setup. So if you're doing a lot of, say, offline translation where the reviewers are doing the review outside of, say, a cloud-based system, then I would recommend having, again, back in the whole paradigm of centralization, having some sort of a wiki or something that you set up where that feedback is put right into the centralized system so that you can immediately see it. You can do it in Excel and pass the Excel file back, but if you can get to a translation technology that has it implemented right inside of it, the feedback then can be immediately provided without really much interaction from you. So, so yeah, I guess my recommendation there would be to, if you're doing offline, try and find some way to use like a Google Sheets or Office 365 file that Excel file or something that everyone can, a cloud-based file that everyone can kind of access and view the feedback.
I see.
We also do a lot of like date range picking, so that allowing linguists to say, over the month of January or the last 3 days or whatever, give me my feedback, and they can download it and view it.
Cool. Thank you. We have one very specific question here about your algorithm, namely, how does the algorithm actually determine what part of the document or content is used as the sample to assess the quality? So the concern is that the quality score that you get doesn't actually tell you anything about the actual quality of the project or the content, because the algorithm happened to pick an easy to translate section with few errors, or a section that's really not that important to the customer. But there are other sections that are full of issues or full of problems. So how does your algorithm actually pick?
Yeah, so our algorithm bases it off of what we call the document metadata. So when the document comes in to the system, it's classified with metadata that tells it like content type equals TechPub, or content type equals UI strings, or content type equals SEO content. And then the algorithm keys off of that and says, okay, for SEO content, hit the SEO scorecard, and works out that. So it works off the entire document and the metadata on the document.
All right. How do you train linguists in the use of your system? Do they find it approachable or easy to use?
Yeah, so our linguists, we go through every time we onboard a linguist, we go through a training process that trains them on the various components, like their, how to access their tasks and how to use our workbench, and as part of that, the quality. If we're training translators, it's here's how you can access feedback that was given on your stuff. And if we're training reviewers and onboarding reviewers, it's, here's the definition of the quality program, and here's how you should create error types and categories. And again, as I mentioned, the initial, when we started to roll this out and ask and require linguists especially the reviewers, to provide the feedback, there was some kickback and some concerns about productivity, but we really did see as they proceeded with it, it really did have a noticeable impact on the ability to communicate better about quality, and therefore less time wasted trying to figure out how I did translate something, what the problem was and so on. So so the tools that we built actually have some visibility into, you know, if I'm a translator, I can see a read-only view of the quality program, so that I know how my stuff will be assessed or evaluated. If I'm a reviewer, I can quickly refer to that read-only view. And we actually exposed the algorithm itself to the reviewers, so they can see exactly how many points there were, how it was deducted from the score, and so on.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. What do you think is the best way to deal with quality control for several languages?
Yeah, so that's where the chart that I showed here that's showing kind of the trends of by target. So you know, the average quality score here's, you know, this is representing a year's worth of data and the various target languages that we were translating into, and this helps me identify quickly the areas where I need to have some you know, do some work, and from there it's training and answering their questions about how to better do it, to provide them educational opportunities and so on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that.
Yeah.
But it's about the data and managing it, honestly. Mm-hmm. So.
And we actually have a follow-up question about the slide that you just showed. Could you elaborate a little bit on individual feedback items under filter and analyze? I think that's the one that you were just displaying again.
Yeah. Oops. Yeah. So this
one
here?
I think so. I don't know which one is. Probably, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so basically this chart here represents when the feedback is provided on a translation. This is rolled up over a time frame. So this is, say, you know, for the last month, show me the distribution of quality issues by type. So so that I could click on, say, you know, the style, and I could drill in and see the feedback for the style. And it would show me literally the translation, the source text, the original translation, the edited translation from review, and you know, severity 4, stylistic category, and so on. So this is a time-based metric, and it's just summed up to the category level.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I think this is about all that we have time for. There are more questions. I will pass those along to you. And you know, if you have the time to respond by email, I think our participants would really, really appreciate that. Brett, any closing words for the attendees?
No, I just appreciate everyone joining, and hope this has been useful for you to, you know, take some of the thoughts and insights that we've had back to, you know, your own implementations, your own processes, and so on, because I can attest they really do make a difference. So hopefully that you found this useful.
It was very informative. Thank you so much. And another big thank you to all our participants for joining us today. We would really appreciate it if you could take just a minute to give us your feedback on today's session using the post-event survey. It is really quite short, but your perspectives help us to continue to refine our webinar program. And with that, I wish you all a good day or a good night, depending on where you are. And I look forward to seeing you at another Gala webinar soon. Thank you and good night.